Senator John Barrasso, member of the Foreign Relations Committee. Senator, good morning. And a lot happening, a lot of news to get to this morning, including the president calling on the Treasury to substantially increase sanctions on Iran. Your response to that?
I think it's the right decision. I think the president is taking a measured response to this. The sanctions have been biting. They've been hurting. Iran has been suffering as a result. Their currency has been devalued significantly, less buying power there. And what they're trying to do, I think, with these attacks is drive up world oil prices because they need the money that they get from selling the oil. The president is right.
It's interesting you use that word the words measured response, because Senator Lindsey Graham, your colleague, tweeted out about that measured response by President Trump regarding the shooting down of an American drone. He wrote that that was clearly seen by the Iranian regime as a sign of weakness. The president then retweeted Lindsey Graham's comment on that and said, "No, Lindsey, it was a sign of strength that some people just don't understand." Can you weigh in on that, Senator?
Well, I love Lindsey, but I think the president is certainly right here. This is a president who leads through action, results, strength, solutions. I've never seen weakness from this president. I've seen him make good judgments in foreign policy, and I think he's done it again here. He has lots of options to consider. He doesn't need to do anything abruptly, and I think he's doing the right thing right now with increasing the sanctions, making it tougher on Iran. We don't want them to change the regime. We want them to change their behavior, and it's time to start now.
How do you expect them to respond?
Well, it's hard to know what they will do because they are being significantly hurt by the sanctions. I thought that the president's outreach in terms of diplomacy was the right way to go, with a possible meeting next week in New York. What we need for Iran to do is to quit funding the Houthis in Yemen and to quit funding their far-right group, which is running some of the military activities right now. They need to change their behavior. And it's not just about nuclear weapons. It's, of course, what we've seen here is not just nuclear weapons. We're talking about the ballistic missiles that they have, completely using in violation of what the UN has called for, and I think the president was right to pull out of the Iranian deal.
Before I move on, Senator, would you like to see the president meet with Iran?
The president will make that decision. He has lots of options. I know he's considering all of them.
New National Security Advisor was just named. The president tweeting out moments ago, Senator, "I'm pleased to announce that I will name Robert C. O'Brien, currently serving as the very successful special presidential envoy for hostage affairs at the State Department." There he is on your screen as our new National Security Advisor. I have worked long and hard with Robert. He will do a great job. Anything to add to that? Is this someone that you know and are familiar with?
Well, it's someone who has a long and distinguished career, and I agree with the president. He will do a fine job, and the president gets to choose who he thinks is best in that position. That's not something that's confirmed by the Senate. That has to do with the trust with the president and that individual for the information that he receives.
Not subject to Senate confirmation. Important point to get in there. I want to ask you now about the latest news in this report over the weekend in the New York Times, the story that was published on Justice Kavanaugh. There continues to be fallout from that. Also mentioning your colleague, Senator Lindsey Graham. He had something to say on that on Hannity last night on that, and I want to get your response, Senator. Thank you.
Two United States senators running for president have called for Kavanaugh's impeachment based on an article in the New York Times that's bogus. And a member of the House has introduced an impeachment resolution. Any impeachment of Judge Kavanaugh based on the New York Times story is dead on arrival in the Senate.
Your response, Senator?
Well, number one, this is the politics of personal destruction against a fine judge and justice. You have an author who's trying to sell books. You have the New York Times, who I believe is trying to undermine the authority and credibility of the Supreme Court to try to intimidate the court into certain decisions. And then you have these Democrat candidates trying to appeal to their far left voters and promising to stack the courts, because they know if they ever want to get their liberal agenda in place, if any of them happen to get elected, and I'm going to certainly work against that, that they would need the court to make favorable rulings. So they want to influence, intimidate, and stack the Supreme Court. But if there's anything, Sandra, that unites Republicans, it's conservative members of the court. I think it helped in President Trump's election. He has put on the Supreme Court not just 2 great jurists, but 150 new conservative young judges on courts all across the land.
Senator, I know you were in a meeting yesterday with the Vice President and Leader Mitch McConnell. You stepped out to a microphone. A variety of things were discussed in that meeting, including gun control. Mitch McConnell, answering questions of reporters, said that Congress is in a holding pattern on gun control. As far as gun-related proposals that Congress and ultimately the president could agree on, is there any common ground being found?
People are certainly looking for something that will keep more Americans safe and at the same time protect our constitutional freedoms. And it's going to have to be something that President Trump will sign into law. The proposal that passed the House isn't going to fit that bill. We have a bill. Ted Cruz and Chuck Grassley have a thing to have to do better in terms of background checks and protecting people so criminals don't get guns. There are things, though, that I am never going to vote for, and that's anything that's going to limit the constitutional rights that we have of law-abiding citizens to own and to have firearms.
Covered a lot there. Senator John Barrasso, appreciate your time this morning, sir. Thank you.
Thank you.